Hi, I'm Emma, a 29-year-old software engineer from San Francisco. When I got home from work, I was shocked to find my bedroom door open. Instead of my neatly arranged room, there were boxes of baby clothes and a crib where my desk used to be. My younger brother Ryan, who had moved out after getting married, was nowhere to be seen. "Ryan, what happened here?" I shouted, my voice echoing off the empty walls. Ryan appeared from down the hall with a sheepish smile. "Hey Emma, surprise. Jen and I needed space for the baby, and your room is the biggest," he said. I felt upset. "You moved out my things? This is my house too. You can't just take over my space," I said. Ryan shrugged. "It's not like you need all this space. Plus, it's better for the baby." I tried to stay calm. "Better for your baby? Where are my things, Ryan?" "They're in the garage." "I thought you wouldn't mind," Ryan said. "Mind? Of course, I mind. Since when did you decide to move back here anyway?" "We're tight on cash, and this place is as much mine as it is yours." "Mom and Dad agreed," Ryan said. It hurt that our parents had taken his side without considering that I had been paying the mortgage and expenses for years. This wasn't just about space, it was about respect. "So you all just made this decision without talking to me?" "I pay the bills here. My money keeps this house running," I said. Ryan crossed his arms. "Well, maybe it's time you stopped. We'll take over from here." I was stunned. "You and Jen can't even handle your own rent, and now you want to handle a $66,000 mortgage? That's a joke." "We'll figure it out. We always do. Why don't you find a smaller place? It'll be quieter for you, with no crying babies," Ryan said. The conversation wasn't going anywhere, and with each word, Ryan pushed me further away. I felt both betrayed and shut out from my own home. I knew I had to make a choice, stay and fight for my space or leave and let them face the consequences of their decisions. Looking around at the remnants of my life, the choice was clear. "Fine, Ryan," I said quietly, my energy fading. "I hope you figure it out, but don't expect any more money from me." Ryan's eyes widened slightly, realizing he hadn't fully considered the impact of his actions. But it was too late. I was done being taken for granted. As I walked to my car, I felt a bit of relief from years of feeling unappreciated. They might not have valued my contributions, but I did, and I wasn't going to support people who didn't respect me. I drove away from the home I'd known as an adult, feeling a mix of anger, sadness, and a new sense of freedom. A chapter of my life was closing, but a new one was beginning. As I drove through the city, the familiar skyline felt like a sign of new beginnings. For the first time in a long time, I was choosing myself, and it was both scary and exciting. The cold night air was sharp against my face as I arrived at my friend Mia's place. The drive had been a blur of streetlights and scattered thoughts. Mia opened the door before I could even knock, her face showing concern and surprise. "You look like you've seen a ghost. What happened?" she asked. I sighed, my shoulders heavy. "I did it, Mia. I told them I'm moving out and I'm not paying another cent for that house." Mia led me to the sofa and handed me a warm cup of tea. "Wow, that's huge. Are you sure about this?" "Yes," I replied, my voice steady even if my feelings were mixed. "They need to understand." I wanted them to see what life was like without me, hoping they'd finally appreciate everything I'd done over the years. Talking with Mia helped me sort through my feelings, but it didn't ease the guilt of leaving my parents or the anger toward Ryan for causing all this mess. Despite Mia's reassurances, the night was restless, filled with doubts and what-ifs. The next morning, I started looking for a new place. As I browsed listings, I realized I could afford something smaller but nicer, closer to work. The idea of living downtown, away from the tension of my family home, felt freeing. By the end of the week, I had signed a lease for a modern apartment in a high-rise with a view of the Bay Bridge. It was my own space, decorated to my taste, and it felt like a fresh start where I could redefine what home meant to me. Over the weekend, Mia and a few colleagues helped me move in. My phone buzzed nonstop with calls and messages from my parents, who were frantic about the financial burden now on their shoulders. "Emma, please, we need to talk. We can't handle the mortgage on our own." My dad's voicemail echoed through the empty living room. I felt a pang of sympathy, but years of being taken for granted had strengthened my resolve. They had quickly and easily chosen Ryan's side, and now it was time for them to deal with the consequences of their decisions. I focused on setting up my new life, arranging furniture, and hanging art. Each piece I added felt like a statement of my independence, a declaration that I was no longer the family's fallback. As the sun set over the city, casting a golden glow across my new living room. I felt a sense of peace for the first time in weeks. This was my space, my choices, my life. The break from my family was harsh, but necessary. I had chosen myself over the perpetual role of supporter, and though the future was uncertain, it was mine to shape. My new apartment was completely mine, and settling in felt like a breath of fresh air. Each morning, sipping coffee on my balcony and looking out over the city, I enjoyed the peace and freedom. My days were filled with work, exploring new cafes, and reconnecting with friends I'd neglected during the years of family drama. I was starting to rediscover who I was before my role as the family's financial support took over. However, as I built my new life, my old one was falling apart. My phone was constantly buzzing with messages and missed calls from my parents, who were struggling without my financial help. One evening, after a nice dinner with friends, I saw multiple missed calls from mom and dad. I hesitated but decided to listen to their voicemails. "Emma, it's mom. We need to talk. The bank called today. They're talking about foreclosure if we can't make the next payment. We didn't realize how much we relied on your help. Please call us back." I sighed, feeling a deep sadness. It wasn't joy I felt, but sorrow for what could have been if they had valued me more. Going back wasn't an option. The next day, while at work, I got a text from Ryan that surprised me. "We really messed up. Emma, I didn't think you'd actually leave. We're losing the house because of me. I'm sorry." Ryan's message made me feel both vindicated and sad. It was the first time he acknowledged he'd taken me for granted, but his apology felt too little, too late. I replied simply, "I hope you find a way to fix this, Ryan. I'm not your safety net anymore." As weeks turned into months, my parents had to sell the house and move into a smaller, more affordable place. Ryan and Jen downsized too, moving into a modest apartment that stretched their budget. Through mutual friends, I heard about their struggles. Ryan took on extra work, and Jen started freelancing to make ends meet. They were learning the hard way about self-sufficiency and the cost of taking others for granted. Even though they were struggling, I found it hard to feel happy about their situation. There was no joy in their hardship, only a quiet recognition that this was a necessary chapter for all of us. They needed to experience life without a safety net, and I needed to follow my own path without carrying their expectations. My decision to step back had sparked change, not only for me, but for my entire family. We were all adjusting to new realities, and while the distance between us grew, so did my confidence in my choice. I had prioritized my well-being, and each day, the guilt faded, replaced by a stronger sense of self. Living in my high-rise apartment with the cityscape before me, my life found a new rhythm filled with possibilities and personal achievements. The freedom to make my own choices, free from family expectations, was exhilarating. Each day, I immersed myself in work and passions, finding joy in things that once seemed out of reach. My freelancing career flourished with the extra hours I could now dedicate. I expanded my network, took on challenging projects, and saw my reputation as a skilled software engineer grow. This success brought financial stability and a sense of accomplishment that was entirely my own, untainted by family obligations or guilt. But even as I thrived, the shadow of my family situation lingered. The family home, once a symbol of shared memories and unspoken agreements of support, was sold, marking the end of an era. My parents, now living in a modest condo, were beginning to grasp the weight of their previous expectations and the consequences of their choices. One quiet evening, as I looked out over the city lights, I received an email from my mom, something I had both dreaded and anticipated. She wrote about the house sale, the pain of downsizing, and the lessons they had learned. Most importantly, she offered a heartfelt apology for taking my contributions for granted and acknowledged the unfair pressure they had put on me. Reading her words, I felt a mix of relief and sadness. It wasn't the joy of vindication but a somber acceptance of how much had changed. I replied with careful and honest words, expressing hope for their new beginning and a desire for a future where we could reconnect, not as dependents and benefactors, but as family. As weeks passed, our communication, once tense, began to soften. We shared updates and small talk, rebuilding bridges that had seemed irreparably burned. Ryan also reached out with more thoughtful and mature messages. He shared news about his growing family and new job, showing he was trying to make amends through actions rather than words. Meanwhile, I continued to build my new life. I explored new hobbies, made new friends, and traveled. Each experience added layers to my identity that were uniquely mine. I learned to balance the joy of independence with the often difficult dynamics of family relationships, the poetic justice of their situation, the consequences they faced, and the growth we all experienced didn't come with a neat, storybook ending. Instead, it was an ongoing journey of learning, understanding, and, most importantly, forgiving, at a pace that respected all our paths. In this new chapter of my life, I found not only success and independence, but also a deeper understanding of forgiveness and family love. It was a beginning that promised not just happiness, but lasting peace, shaped by the challenges of the past. And that's where our story ends. Emma learned to stand up for herself and redefine her relationships on her own terms. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Do you think Emma made the right choice by stopping her financial support, or should she have handled it differently to keep family ties intact? Dive into the comments and share your thoughts on finding the balance between personal independence and family obligations. If you enjoyed the story, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Your support helps us continue sharing these stories.